Graham, you're live on YouTube.
Hello. We are live on YouTube and Instagram, getting ready to go live on Facebook here momentarily. And hang with us for a sec as we get stuff ramped and going. Dun-dun-dun. We have Daniel and Brian back in the office, manning the platforms for us. We are. I'm in Africa right now. They're in St. Louis, and we're going to be getting going here momentarily. How are things looking, Daniel?
I'm confirming that we're live on Facebook. Hold on one second.
Okay. Hey guys, getting ready to go live on all platforms.
All right, Facebook is starting, and you're live on YouTube, and
Cool.
You're live on your own Instagram page.
Great. So yeah, we're taking your questions here momentarily. Our final live of 2021. Happy holidays to everybody, too. But by the way, yeah, send your questions in. We're going to be taking them momentarily. It is crazy to think it has been nearly 2 years since the pandemic started, by the way. Hope everybody's staying safe, getting vaccinated, getting their boosters if appropriate. We are just wrapping up a crazy month and a half taping period. We were in India for one of the best, arguably the best cricket player ever to live, Sachin Tendulkar. We were in Italy for the MotoGP legend, arguably the best ever, Valentino Rossi, and then Puerto Rico for Jake Paul. And that just got released today on YouTube, clips coming on Facebook, and airing this weekend on TV around his big fight with Tyron Woodley. So yeah, super excited. I am in Africa actually right now. Going to be starting vacation here in a few days, and then off to Antarctica. Strangely enough, so it'll be 5 continents in five weeks, which I'm kind of excited about. It's fun having the opportunity to see the world, whether through the show or for holiday. Going to be taking your questions here momentarily. A couple things I wanted to point out. First, you guys always ask where you can watch the show aside from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, where we post clips. You can watch it on TV, depending the region where you are. You can visit our website, grahambensinger.com, for that. But we're on internationally, ESPN in Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, Caribbean, South America, BT Sport in the UK and Ireland, TSN in Canada, and then domestically, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox stations across the U.S., re-airs on regional sports television networks, so the Bally Sports Nets, NBC Sports Nets, etc. So taxi cabs, clips air. We have a podcast where the long-form version of the interview runs. So lots of places you can see us. And if you want any of the archived episodes plus exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, join our memberships on YouTube or Facebook. So, that's where we're at. I should also mention, continue to send in your guest suggestions. We love them. Heck, we started pursuing Valentino Rossi in the first place based on somebody's suggestion. So you can comment here with guest suggestions or email them, graham@grahambensinger.com. They help a lot. So with that having been said, as mentioned, wanted to take your questions. And Daniel, what do we have first?
We're getting some questions about, you mentioned the Sachin taping. When will that hit air?
Sachin is going to be the first part of 2022, to be determined date, likely late January, early February. So our team's in kind of the early stages of putting that together now. is Valentino Rossi, middle of January, and then Sachin will come after that. And it was also pretty cool to have the opportunity to go back to India. As you might recall, we were there a couple years ago when we taped Virat Kohli, kind of the current star of cricket. If you know, to put this in U.S. terms, if Sachin's like the Michael Jordan of cricket, Virat's like the LeBron. So interesting to have the chance to kind of see both of their worlds, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Some people are asking on our.
What else do we have, Daniel?
Some of our comments are about Jake Paul. What were some of your big takeaways from the shoot, and what did you enjoy most about your time with him in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, so Jake Paul, I found him to be fascinating, and you know, he, I think, understandably, you know, has gotten a hard time from people for decisions he's made in the past. But I give the kid a lot of credit. I mean, he's what, in his mid-20s, is completely self-made, came up through social media, and is now successfully transforming into a new career. Like, he's done that all on his own. And so professionally, I have a lot of respect for what he's built. And then he's willing to really take a hard look at, you know, who he is, choices he's made. And it's always refreshing to kind of talk to somebody who's willing to share their perspective regardless of what the ramifications might be of doing so. From that regard, I, you know, really enjoyed spending time with him in Puerto Rico. We got to keep the questions coming faster, Daniel.
Yep. Just reading some here. What was your favorite interview ever?
Favorite interview ever. I mean, I've said this before there, and I apologize for kind of going to the same few, but you know, Sir Richard Branson was fascinating because we spent you know, the better portion of a week with him in the Bahamas, and that happened because I ran into him, strangely enough, in North Africa, and a chance meeting led dinner and drinks and tennis and chess, and then a month later we're doing this taping. Jim Brown, arguably the greatest football player of all time and one of the most socially significant athletes of the past century. You know, he's friends or has had friendships with people ranging from Bill Russell and Hugh Hefner to Jack Nicholson and Richard Pryor and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. So the histories there is pretty remarkable, and it's always a treat talking to him. And then, you know, just last season we did a few hour taping with Tom Hanks. So that was one that I had been pursuing for quite some time, and you know, a planned hour and a half taping led to double the amount of time because he at least seemed to be enjoying himself. So there are so many I could go on, but feel super lucky to have the chance to not only talk to these folks, but to spend anywhere from a few hours to you know, better portion of a week, depending on who it is we're profiling.
Tim from Chicago says, really loved your Tony La Russa interview. And he did come back. Love your show, and you asked some great questions. My question for you is, have you ever been shocked by any answer from a guest? Oh, hello. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Loved your, Tim from Chicago writes, and loved your Tony La Russa interview. Ironically, he did return. My question for you is, have you ever been shocked by any answer from anyone?
Oh, so often. You know, I think we have the benefit of spending an extended amount of time with the folks that we profile. And, we put probably 100 hours of research into each interview preceding the sit down, as we've talked about before. And I think when you're fortunate to do that kind of prep and then spend that amount of time with the people that, we're profiling, that just inherently creates the opportunity to get unexpected answers more often than not. One that obviously made a lot of news was the last season was Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott opening up about some of his challenges. We've had
Do you think
other
he wants
interviews
questions about
this season from
Batman or Spider-Man?
Jimmy Johnson to others that have made news for various reasons. So, I think the goal with any of the tapings is to get the person comfortable, and then, if they're comfortable, they're a little more willing to give you a peek behind the curtain.
Graham Yash on YouTube asks a fun little non-sports question. What movie are you most looking forward to watching, the Batman or the Spider-Man No Way Home? She said Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson would be fun guests.
Those would be great guests. To be honest, I didn't even know either were coming out or if they're out. I don't watch a lot of movies. It's also weird, we've gone from a few years ago, you'd see everything promoted, you'd have the typical theater movie going type experience, to now it's just streaming, and stuff isn't promoted the same way that they used to. So I'm less in tune with what the big movies are coming out these days.
Graham, can you talk a little bit about who you're pursuing for 2022? Who's on your bucket list?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so many folks are on our bucket list. And again, taking your questions, send them in. Also, I love when you guys send guest suggestions. It helps us a lot. Comment here, or Graham at GrahamBensinger.com. You can email them in. Also, if you are a member on Facebook or YouTube, we've just gotten this going a couple months in. We're trying to kind of populate it with content that's new that you wouldn't be able to get through any of our other platforms. Would welcome your feedback on what you think, and if there's stuff there that you'd like to be there that's not currently, send us those suggestions, please, because we started this because of you guys, and we're trying to lean in a little more. So we very much welcome the feedback. So, I mean, in terms of the wish list, have, so many, from Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods to Serena Williams to Lance Armstrong to a head of state, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. I also think slowly with this show, we're increasingly opening it up to folks beyond the sports world. Long term, there's the goal on my end of, 1 week having on Tom Brady, the week after that President Obama, the week after that Julia Roberts, the week after that Kanye West. So just kind of the biggest names. It's really the same type of interview in my mind, whether you're doing talking to a big athlete or talking to somebody from a different field. So long term, that's the goal, and I think increasingly you'll see us make guest booking type suggestions that align with that.
Graham, we got a few questions actually in a row on YouTube about preparation. How long do you spend preparing for an interview, and sort of how do you come to the questions you ask?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I mean, in terms of how long we spend preparing, similar to what I said a moment ago, We put probably 100+ hours collectively into it between the producers, myself, our part-time researcher. I will read, watch, listen to any significant piece that's ever been done on the person we're profiling. That's just kind of my process. We might invest maybe more time to prepare than is necessary, but I also think that, use the word again, inherently then creates the opportunity for more revealing answers or a little better access than the person would otherwise normally be used to giving, because they're just more engaged because they recognize you've taken the time to prepare. So really, that's the process, and then along the way, as consuming those pieces, I write questions down and start to organize them a couple days before the actual taping, as kind of the culmination to a generally 2-week preparation process.
Graham Moe wants to know, and I know we just posted some content around this guest on Facebook last week, so maybe that was the motivation for the question. But Moe wants to know, what was it like interviewing Mike Tyson?
No, thanks for the question, Mo. I mean, Mike was one of my all-time favorite guests too, because I mean, it is Mike Tyson. He's about as big as it gets, and as colorful and as arguably controversial, or at least way back when, a character around. Talked to him on a few occasions before. That was what we were lucky enough to win an Emmy for. He was, I think that we're in season 12. He was the debut episode of, I believe, season 2 of the show. And I remember his wife told me going into it, we'll give you like minimum an hour, but if it's, going well, Mike could be willing to spend all day with you. So of course I'm thinking, like, this is amazing. We're going to get to spend all day with him. Little did I, consider the fact that it might not go well. And it did not go well. I asked him a question probably half hour into the interview that was significant, but seemingly insignificant relative to all the stuff that he's been through in his life. And he did not like that question. And I could instantly see in his eyes that I had, ticked him off. And then his answer to every question I asked after that was, I don't know. So I'm like, all right, does this mean the interview's over? And he said yes. He thanked us. We were told to pack up and leave. And, I'm like personally devastated, because this is our debut episode of the season. I was thinking it would go a lot better. And here, it looks like one of the most prolific heavyweight champs ever is, gonna take my head off. I still vividly remember the look he gave, which was not fun. Anyways, shortly before we leave the house, I asked his personal assistant if I can go out back and thank Mike for allowing us to come, because Mike was out back where he breeds pigeons. And so the personal assistant said yes. And that conversation off camera ended up turning into a couple-hour chat between the two of us, and he ends up inviting us back the next day for the rest of the sit-down. And, taught me a good lesson, which is, there are certain folks that have a justified guard up when it comes to media, because they've done a lot of press before and feel they haven't been treated right. And regardless of if you come into a conversation knowing you're going to be fair and not out to get somebody, you should never assume that the person you're speaking with comes into it thinking the same thing. And so I think over time, and as you have those sorts of experiences, it helps you in kind of how you start conversations, how you lead into it, et cetera. So Mike is somebody who's always, subsequently treated me so well, and feel really grateful to have had the opportunities to talk to him.
Graham, from your Instagram, we're getting some questions. Hey, Graham, I'm a big fan of yours. Any advice on
Yeah,
getting
sure.
interviews as a beginner journalist?
Uh, I mean, really, as simple as this sounds, I just ask. I think, I'm 35 right now. I started when I was 14 with an internet radio show. And I think more often than not, still to this day, we are able to get guests that guests whose stature is disproportionate to our audience size. Meaning, so often we feature people that really don't need the and sorry, my Instagram, the connection's poor. Apologies. I'm going to try and get off Wi-Fi here and see if
Wi-Fi.
that makes a difference. But yeah, I think so often we've featured people who have no business sitting down with us because they don't need the exposure we bring. They're some of the biggest talent out there. And I think more often than not, why we're lucky to get access to those folks is just by asking or being consistent with follow up. There is a difference between being obnoxious and persistent. And I think over the years, I've done a little better job at being able to navigate that. But yeah, I just think you need to ask. And also, you don't have to feature the biggest name person to start. If you want to break into the business and you're looking for experience, it really doesn't matter whether you're interviewing Michael Jordan or you're interviewing the star of your, little league team. You just need to get reps and learn how to develop your craft. And I would argue that's kind of the most important thing out of everything.
Graham, getting some questions now about your recent interview with Dan Bilzerian in Vegas. What were some of your takeaways from Dan? And yeah.
Well, Dan's another person that gets a hard time, justifiably so. He is, he lives his life his way, unapologetically, says what he believes, with no regard for political correctness. Doesn't claim to be a role model. I would not advocate him being anybody's role model. However, I think why we have featured him a couple times before is that he is uniquely and distinctly his own person. And he's an original for better or worse. And I like having the opportunity to talk to people like that. It doesn't matter whether it's Dan or somebody else. I think oftentimes we profile unique characters, and that's why. There was no path to Dan getting to where he is now that he could follow when he was starting out. He just figured it out. And certainly you could argue where he got his money from. He seems to outline very clearly in his book how he won the money gambling. Nonetheless, kind of that's the reasoning behind featuring people like that. And I think we'll continue to pursue folks that we believe are distinctly unique characters.
Graham, looks like your Instagram is doing better now, whatever you did, so that's good. Getting a lot of comments about interviewing footballers, like Ronaldo. Is anyone on your bucket list?
Oh, yeah, sure. All the usual characters in terms of footballers internationally or soccer stars when it comes to the States. I think it'd be interesting to feature Ronaldo, Messi, Beckham. those sorts of folks, and we are, actively pursuing them. It's interesting. I sometimes will feature somebody who takes a couple months to book. Other times we'll feature somebody, in the case of a Tom Hanks or a Jack Nicklaus, which will take 4 or 5 years to book. So we actively pursue most of the big stars, and it's just a matter of how long it takes to try and make some of these happen. And what is that? Loose 56. Any chance you will have more interviews from the motorsports world? Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the question. We're, trying to lean in more to motorsports, whether domestically or internationally. I think Formula One also is a motorsport that we're looking more into, and actively looking to book somebody pretty big that we're close to finalizing. We've done, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg and Niki Lauda and Bernie Ecclestone in the past in Formula One, and I think we'll continue to do more folks in motorsports, whether Formula One or otherwise.
Graham, we have time for, I have three more here. Peter wants to know, in your opinion, who's on your Mount Rushmore of journalists, and why?
Oh, that's a good one. Thanks for the question, Peter. That's hard. Well, I'll say, let's change it slightly from journalists to interviewers, because I think that could be a little more all encompassing. First,
You have another
the
one from there.
late great Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes fame. I had a ton of respect for. There was a great documentary done on Wallace a while back, which I really enjoyed. I actually interviewed him for my then high school radio show back in the day, and got that just by calling 60 Minutes and bugging them till they finally agreed to put me on with him for an hour. I think Howard Stern is a fantastic interviewer. I think Oprah is a fantastic interviewer. Two distinctly different styles, obviously, but both great in their own right. Bob Costas is somebody I have a ton of respect for. Matt Lauer, I thought was a great interviewer and reporter, as well. So there are so many folks, but I often will find myself sitting in the car listening to a Howard Stern interview well after I've parked, just staying put, unable to get it out because of whatever he's talking about. So, I certainly kind of aspire to one day kind of have developed my craft to engage people in the way that some of the folks I mentioned were or are able to.
And sort of along the same path here, April asks, what are some of the most valuable things you've learned since you became a journalist?
Be prepared. I think first and foremost it's that. Second, it's listen. I think so often earlier on, and I'm still guilty of this at times, but you're thinking of what you want to ask next, and you end up missing a valuable opportunity to ask a relevant follow-up because you completely lose sight of what the person just said. And then three, just be comfortable in your own skin. Don't try and be somebody else. Easier said than done. Takes time and reps, but I think as you get more comfortable, the person you're profiling then is more comfortable, and you end up getting better access also, and then you don't come off as, less than the person you're interviewing if it's somebody of considerable stature. So, yeah, this was the final live of 2021. I again, I've said this before, but I so appreciate everybody watching our content, commenting, subscribing, liking. It first helps us a ton, but second, I mean, it's the only reason we continue to have the opportunity to do this. And I know I not only speak for myself, but the rest of our team when I say how grateful we are for the continued interest. So again, if you guys have a guest suggestion, graham@grahambensinger.com. If you're looking to find out where you can consume the content globally, grahambensinger.com has all of our TV affiliates and all of our digital partners looking for exclusive access, behind the scenes content. Join our memberships on Facebook and YouTube. Hope everybody enjoys the holidays. I know these past couple of years have been tough for a variety of reasons, and hope everybody's able to spend some time with their families and decompress. And we'll see you guys in 2022. And thanks for